Our speaker today is Adam Lewenberg. He is the president of Postal Advocate, the only mail audit and recovery firm in the US and Canada. We manage a portfolio of 127,000 pieces of mailing equipment for the largest US companies. Adam speaks and teaches nationally on mail savings and industry trends. He's the former industry co-chair of the Boston Postal Customer Council and Mail Systems Management Association. He is CMDSS and MDC certified. He's a featured writer for Mailing Systems Technology magazine. He worked for one of the largest mailing vendors for over 17 years, and he was the director of national sales for Presort, tabletop inserters, addressing hardware and software, and green offerings. And he was one of the top 5 account managers nationally, working with some of the top accounts. Over to you, Adam.
Thanks, Michaela. So today we get to talk about the rate increase, everybody's favorite topic. How do we spend more money with the Postal Service? So what we're going to cover today is what rates are changing, how this impacts you, what do you need to do to make sure that you're compliant. Throughout this entire presentation, we're going to talk about savings tips that you can use to help offset these increases, and then also thoughts about the USPS and what's actually happening. So the new rates go into effect July 10th, 2022. They always go into effect on Sunday to make sure that when people come in Monday morning, the rates are updated in people's systems and they're ready to go. So there are lots of different rate classes. We're not going to cover all of them, I promise. You would be here for too long. But we're going to cover the most common thing used by the majority of businesses and organizations out there on a day-to-day basis. If there's anything that we don't cover that you need information on, you can go to the USPS Explorer website, and here's the web address for it, and they'll have a complete listing of every rate and every change. The reason that we do these types of rate sessions is when you talk to the Postal Service, they're going to give you the new rates, but they're not going to give you anything that compares them to the old rate. And they're going to give you a generic percentage, like 5% increase overall. But there could be things inside the rate increase that you're doing, inside the mail classes that you're doing, that could have much more significant rate impacts. And we're going to talk about what those are. So this is the largest increase in 10 years. And it's next to the next largest increase in 10 years that happened within the last 12 months. So on August 29th of 2021, what is that, 10 months ago, we had what was the largest increase at that point in 10 years. And you can see the numbers that they were looking at below. Now on 7/10, basically 10 months later, we're having the second increase. When you look at the combined 12-month impact on this, depending on the class of mail, it's a 10 to 30% increase, which is mind-boggling when you look at what we saw in other rate increases in the past. And you can see that usually the majority of everything was single digits, usually at the low end of single digits. And now we're at double digits, and in some cases, multiple double digits. The reason this is happening is the following, and we all know it. Letter volumes are dropping fast. They're making up for these declines with rate increases. So what's really happening with this? So there's an increased number of drop points. As our population increases and we have new developments and businesses and places that there are more places the post office has to deliver. As mail volumes decline, there's fewer pieces the post office is delivering per stop of mail, increasing their costs. Also, as mail volumes change, like as mail volumes go down on an annual basis, they go down in their sort of normal amounts. But we have correction times. Like in 2020 with COVID, there was a major correction of mail volumes. What we find is that after those major corrections, very infrequently does the volumes ever go back up to where it was, or even go back up at all. Most of the time, that sets the bar as the new normal, and that's what we're seeing. The other thing that you will notice as we go through these different increases is the pieces that are having some of the lower increases are the single piece items, the items that are like the smaller mail volumes. And the reason for that is those pieces, frankly, are having the highest decrease in volume. The post office is trying to not scare people off. Where the biggest increases are happening are in things like the automation classes, the marketing mail, where people basically are doing huge volumes of mail, and they're typically less impacted by rate increases that they've shown over time. Also, we're going to see a lot in heavier weight items that are having much bigger increases. As you can see, flats, 27% this year, the automation flats, 30% increases. And then the marketing mail flats, 17% increases. So that's a trend we're going to talk about as we go through this. First class mail single piece. So what first class mail single piece means is you go to the post office and you buy a postage stamp. That is a first class mail retail piece. Or if you're running a flat or a postcard through your postage meter, those are the rates in which you would get. So those rates are going up from 58 cents for a 1-ounce stamp to 60 cents, a 3.4% increase. Flats are increasing from $1.16 for a 1-ounce flat to $1.20. So you can see that increase at about 3.4%. And postcards are going from 40 to 44%, 44 to 44 cents, a 10% increase. The biggest impact is the additional ounce. The additional ounce rate was 20 cents, and that's going to 24 cents. So that's a 20% increase on the heavier weight items. And you'll see that as we go through this. And that's why these percentages go up so much. You know, a 3-ounce letter goes up 10%. A 3-ounce flat goes up 8%. And it's because the additional ounce is going up at the same time the first ounce is, which is not normal. Normally, it's just the first ounce that goes up, and the additional ounces basically stay the same. Metered letters. So I think it was about 5 years ago, Post Office created a new class of mail called metered letters that says if you use a postage meter or an online postage solution, like a PC postage tool, you save 3 cents per stamp over the rate that you would go if you purchased those stamps at the Postal Service. So that rate is 60 cents. So the new rate is 57 cents for metered mail. So basically you save 3 cents a piece by using a postage meter or an online postage tool. Now, the rates of this went way up. So the 1-ounce metered letter rate was 53 cents. It went up to 57 cents. That's almost an 8% increase. Second ounce and third ounce, 11 and 13%. Significantly large increases. And that's why it's important to know these intricacies. On the flip side, there's still value in using these metered rates. So by having this type of technology, if you spend $2,000 a year, you save $113 in postage. You know, if you send 10,000, it's 566. 100,000, you save 5,600. So there's a significant savings that's available by using this type of technology. First class mail commercial. So what first class mail commercial is you either use a pre-sort service to pick up your mail, or you physically have automation software in your office that's going to validate the addresses. It's going to sort them to the right sequence the post office requires. You're going to print your addresses with a barcode on them and then submit them to the Postal Service. That's what automation jobs are. Most people don't do the automation themselves anymore. Most people have a pre-sort service pick up their mail to do all those functions to make it easy for them, and then they share in the savings with the pre-sort service. But let's talk about what's happening to these rates. On the letter side, you're seeing 6 to 7% increases on the letter side. What's interesting is the biggest increase on the letter size is on the automation, on the 5-digit automation, which is the densest pieces possible. So the way these sorts work, just to give a little bit of background in case you're not comfortable with what these different sort levels are. 5-digit means, automation 5-digit means you have 150 pieces going to a 5-digit zip code. So think 90210, like the show. If I have 150 pieces going to Beverly Hills into that specific zip code, I get the 5-digit rate. If I don't have 150 pieces going to that 5-digit zip code, but I have pieces going to 902, 903, and 906, a schematic of 3-digit zip codes, then I get the 3-digit rate. The 3-digit rate is only for flats, but you can see that there. Automation ADC is you have a schematic of 3-digit zip codes like we talked about, and that's AADC. And then there's automation mixed AADC, which is automation area distribution center, and that's everything else. So basically, the denser you can sort your pieces, the more pieces you have going to a specific zip code, the better the rates are. That's how these sort levels work. So what's interesting with this is they're increasing the rates on the 5-digit at higher levels than the basic, which is usually it's the opposite. Flats, you can see, are the opposite. They're keeping the 5-digit rate intact, and then for the people who can't sort to those densities, they're increasing rates at the highest levels up to 8%. And you can see postcards follow suit in that same way. Now, you might look at this and you'd say, okay, for flats, it's a very small increase. It's 0 to 8%. But this is for the first ounce. The actual increase is going to be much greater since additional ounces increase from 20 to 24 cents, which is 20% increase. So this additional ounce is going to have one of the biggest impacts on the rate increase. So it's a double increase because, like I said, typically the rate increase is just on the first ounce. Now we have a 20% increase on every additional ounce. And you can see this chart here. So if you're sending out things like mixed AEDC would be like someone like pre-sort services, or if you did it yourself, you'd get like a flat mixed AEDC or a flat pre-sorted rate. If you do them yourself singly, like you just run through your postage meter, you get the single rate. And you can see based on the weights what those increases are. Most people, when they're sending a flat because there's a lot of pages that they can't put into a smaller envelope. Those are usually heavier items. Most flats are going to be 3 to 10 ounces. And you can see you're dealing with 8 to 14%, 8 to 16% increases on those pieces just based on the weight. That's a significant increase and much higher than the post office is publishing. So some saving strategies for you to consider with flats. If you can fold flats into a number 10 or a 6x9 envelope where possible, it's a 53 to 73% savings. So let's just look at this chart as some examples. So let's say you're sending, 6 to 10 sheets that are going into an envelope. And you're going to say, well, anything over 4 or 5 sheets, my inserter can't run, and I'm going to just put into a 9x12. So that's $1.68. If you folded that in half and put it into a 6x9 envelope, and a lot of inserters can run 10 sheets easily into a 6x9 because it's a single fold versus a trifold, it goes to 81 cents. The costs get cut in half. If you run it through a pre-sort service, the pre-sort service or the automation mail is the same rate for up to 3.5 ounces. So one of the benefits of using automation is when you run a single piece of mail through, it's based on weight. When you use an automation class or a pre-sort service, which uses automation classes, you get the 1 ounce rate for up to 3.5 ounces of mail. So that basically 3 ounce flat that you're sending, by converting that to a letter, you get the 1 ounce rate for it, and it's 51.5, and if you automate it yourself, it's down to as low as 46 cents. 52 to 73% savings. It's the number one way to reduce costs is to say, do I have to send all these flats? And could I automate some of these, duplex print, shrink print, do something to make them where I can get more content into 6x9 envelopes versus having to use 9x12. And because of these increases, you're going to see much more people pushing for those types of strategies because it's just these increases are just out of line, and they're going to keep happening because the post office is underwater on their flats costs, and that's why they're raising rates so high. It's very cost. They're not. It's a much more costly process for them to process flats than it is for letters. So first class mail, these are all your savings options that you can think of. Use a postage meter and save 3 cents on letters. Use a pre-sort service. If you run 500 pieces a day or have one-time mailings over 1,000 pieces, pre-sort services will come, pick up your mail. They'll basically have you meter at the lower price, and then they'll either charge you a small fee or like share, and they'll get paid from the post office in the back end for how deep they can submit it into the postal system. And they're great services, and they're the most common that are used in the mailing industry to save money. If you're doing a lot of mail, consider automating it yourself. If you're doing large single mailings that you could take advantage of the discounts yourself, consider having the software and the staff and equipment to do it yourself. Remember, the pre-sort and automation levels go up to 3.5 ounces for the 1 ounce rate. So if you're doing heavier items, people are doing like multi-page statements and invoices and that sort of thing, and insurance, packets and things like that, really save a lot of money by doing this. Flats and postcards can have the same automation rates as letters. And then consider moving generic content from first class to marketing mail. So let's say that you're sending, a 3 ounce newsletter and you're just sending it out through your postage meter to get it out the door. So that's $2.88 as, it's $1.08 as a single piece. If you meter it, it's $1.05. If you ran it through a pre-sort service, it goes down to 51.5. Plus there might be a few other fees that they charge, but basically it's around there. If you automate it yourself, it's 45.5 to 51.5. But if it's generic in content, you can convert that to marketing mail, and it's 29.6 to 34.9. There's obviously you have to, automate it. It's like the same process of automating your mail that we talked about before. But the rates can be significantly less. And if you're a nonprofit, that same marketing mail gets converted to a nonprofit class, and it goes down to 15 to 20 cents. So these are your options to reduce cost in mail. And it's just wanted to put them all in one place so you can see it. But there are ways to offset these rate increases, as you can see here. Marketing mail. So marketing mail is the same as first class in the sense that it's for mailings. The difference is there's a requirement with marketing mail that it says it can't be personal in correspondence. That's the term the post office uses. And what that means is you can't have statement level detail where I have a balance on mine and someone else has a different balance in theirs. You can have generic, you have to have generic content on all the pieces. Now you could have different merge fields, like someone has their name on a letter and someone else has a name, and you could have generic categories of information, but you can't have specific statement level information on it and still count as standard or marketing mail, excuse me. So overall marketing mail has had a 4 to 7% increase on letters, like you can see here. Depending on the nonprofit, is at a slightly lower increase on letters than the marketing mail side, the for-profit. Flats, you can see across the board, 7 to 10% increases for letters and 9 to 16% on flats. Marketing mail has 7 to 10% increases on flats, and then nonprofit 9 to 16%. There's two classes for flats, there's sort of two classes. There's less than 4 ounce and there's over 4 ounce for the flat rates. For the flat rates over 4 ounces, it's rated in two ways. There's a per piece rate for that piece, and you can see the per piece rates are 25.8 to 58.2, and then there's a pound rate, and a pound rate is saying if it's 8 ounces, then the pound rate would be half of this $1.09, and that would be a pound rate added to the piece rate to calculate what the cost is. And you can see the piece rates went way up. 9 to 18% for larger flats. The per pound rate basically only went up 3%. And look at nonprofit. Nonprofit got increases up to 74% on their pound rates. On their piece rates. That means that people that are doing marketing mail and nonprofit that are doing large, heavier mailings are going to have significant increases. So just to put this in like normal terms, because not everyone can calculate per piece and per pound rates on the fly, we've done the calculations on 1 to 15 ounce flats, so you can see what the impact is for both marketing mail and commercial, and nonprofit. But people are basically looking at, depending on the weights, 5% all the way up to 17% increases. Marketing mail savings options. Use destination entry level discounts to move mail closer to its destination for larger savings. So the post office offers these destination entry discounts. And what that says is if you can physically take your marketing mail and move it closer to its final destination, they will give you extra savings. And so if you can move it to the destination network distribution center or the destination sectional center facility that supports where the mail is going, they will give you extra discounts. So if you can move your mail, a letter, to the destination sectional center facility, you can save 3 cents now on that piece. If it's less than 4 ounces, and if you can move it, a 4 ounce flat, you save 9.1 cents. And if it's over 4 ounces, you save 36.4 cents on that flat. So huge reductions by being able to move mail closer to its final destination. Now, what's interesting about this is when you look at the savings rates compared to prior to this rate change, the savings are going way up. So you're saving on letters, you're saving an extra 10 to 11% by moving mail closer to its destination. With flats, you're saving 14 to 15% based on the weights for the stuff you're moving to destinational sectional center facilities. So what the post office is really saying is, we're going to increase your rates dramatically in these categories. If you can help us through WorkShare and move your mail closer to its final destination, we'll increase your discounts, incentivizing you to do that, taking the burden off some of our transportation network. So the benefits of this, using these destination entry discounts, is obviously the savings is increased, you save money. Mail moves faster through the postal system because you're moving it closer to its final destination. And you want to look for outsourced providers. Most people aren't going to do this themselves. Most people aren't big enough to start trucking mail throughout the country to get it to these different sectional center facilities. So what most people do is they either use an outsourced provider for their marketing mail, and that outsourced provider, if they're a huge company like a Quad or something like that, they're going to have their own internal distribution that moves this mail to where it's going. And then smaller outsourced providers will probably outsource this function to a consolidator or a pre-sort service that can do this movement of the mail. but you want to look for providers that can move the highest percentage of their mail to sectional center facilities, because postage is going to be your biggest cost component of these outsourced mail projects. And if they can get the type of savings that you're looking at here, this can dramatically reduce the cost of your mailings. So you want to also look for the companies that get the highest percentage to the sectional center facility. And then you want to look for providers that are in the best geographic areas. Like if you're using a provider and they're based in New York for your marketing mail, then and your stuff's going nationwide, then they have to truck stuff or air stuff all over the country to farther areas at much more expensive prices. If your outsourced providers in the Midwest, then it's a much smaller move to be able to hit the majority of the country and lower costs. Other things for flats is consider moving flats to letters wherever possible. If you can convert flats to the letter rates, your rates go, the letter rates for up to 3.5 ounces are 14.6 to 35 cents, depending on if it's, for a nonprofit, compared to the flats rates that are 27.8 to 85.4. Significant savings just folding them into flats or getting more pieces into 6x9 style envelopes or custom envelopes that meet the the letter requirement. Parcels. The good news is that in this rate increase, the parcels are staying the same. In January of this year, we had a rate increase already on parcels. So I want to just talk about parcels as a way so you can understand what happened earlier this year, and so you can understand how to save money in this category. So basically, UPS and FedEx have increases every year in parcels, and they had a 6%, and UPS and FedEx basically said that they had a 5.9% increase. The post office stated they had a 2.7% increase. Everything I'm highlighting in yellow is where there's a higher actual rate increase than what was expressed. And that's the reason is because when the carriers talk about rate increases, they talk about it overall. That doesn't mean that that's what your mail is. So with parcels, we break it down in this way. Most people, fall into a certain category. They send lightweight items like either less than 10 pounds, 11 to 25, or 26 to 150. Most people are sending the lighter weight items, and most people are sending the lighter weight items to local zones, zones 2 to 4, which are the closer zones. And you can see those had much higher increases than higher zones and heavier weights. And so we look at it this way so you can see that the increases that the carriers are giving can be very high. Priority Mail Express, you can see down below, went up 5 to 13% on this increase. Priority Mail itself didn't go up that much. The stuff that's the most common for Priority Mail, which is lightweight local zones, went up 3%. And then the farther distance went up 2%. There were some reductions in the midweight. And then prices went up on heavier weight items, as you can see from the charts. So saving money in the carriers and having ways to compare rates between UPS, FedEx, and the Postal Service is one of the best ways to reduce costs. And the reason for this is there's two types of shippers in the world. There's a production shipper where things are going down the shipping line. They have custom tools designed to help them ship. They have traffic managers that are optimizing shipments, and they're doing these types of calculations in the background to optimize their shipping flow. So that group is sort of taken care of and knows what they're doing in these areas. The bigger opportunity that we find with our clients is they're basically organizations that they're inexperienced shippers. They're people using free carrier tools, and then everybody's sort of doing it their own to do day-to-day shipping, overnight shipping requests through UPS and FedEx free tools. And they don't have a level and a means to be able to compare these rates. And they're using whatever they're used to doing and whatever's convenient. And most of the time, they're defaulting to overnight rates for everything they're doing. So what I want to show you is these are the main ways that rate shopping makes any sense for organizations and where people drive the most cost savings from a rate shopping model. So there's sort of twofold. One is ground shipments. So UPS and FedEx guarantee ground shipments next day in zones 2 that's up to 250 miles away from your original destination. That usually encompasses anywhere between 10 and 40% of a client's shipping requests that they're doing because they're shipping mostly to people in a local area in which they support their services. And so a lot of air shipments could be moved from overnight, 2-day, 3-day service to ground and get the same or faster delivery at significantly lower costs, as you can see from this chart below. Okay, and have guaranteed delivery objectives. The other big reduction opportunity is to bring the post office in. Now, the post office typically isn't going to compete on a next day air service where something has to get there next day and you need tracking and proof that it got there next day. That's not where the post office works. You're probably going to get better discounts with UPS and FedEx than you're going to do with express mail, which is their guaranteed service. The real opportunity is priority mail and first class parcel. Let's just take someone sending a 1 pound ground package and it's $9.50. Well, most companies aren't going to pay the published price for ground or for any of these. They're going to have a discount with the carriers that could be up to 70, 80% if you're a high enough volume shipper. But the carriers cap that and they have minimum level shipping charges. So even if you had a 80% discount of this, they're going to say your minimum shipping charge is $6 or $7. It's going to depend on your negotiation. So $7 compared to $7.37, I'll just ship it ground to the post office. But here's where the difference comes. I mean, I'll ship it through UPS. Here's where the difference comes. If it's going to a residence, UPS and FedEx charge $5 as a residential fee. If it's going to a rural zip code, that's 61% of all zip codes in the country, they charge delivery area surcharges that are $3.40 to $6.50. And then when I did this chart, which was the beginning of the year, fuel was at 9 to 12% surcharges, but now it's at around 20% or more because fuel's going up so much. So you take that $9.50 ground shipment, and then you say, okay, $9.50, I get it for $6, that's my base minimum. And then I add residential fee of $5, now I'm 11. And now I add fuel at 20%, and so now I'm at 12 or 13. And I compare that at $7.37 for priority mail, and I'm saying to myself, well, okay, I can get a much better rate through priority mail. And by the way, the post office, if it's less than a pound, has an ounce rate, which UPS and FedEx doesn't have, with tracking that for $3.76 to $5.49, I can get that piece delivered. And so these are the reasons that people bring in the Postal Service and ground as ways to help them make better decisions. The free carrier tools that people use don't make those calculations. And that's the reason people have to consider it. The carriers are going to keep increasing costs at the highest levels. The only way to control costs in this day and age is to help people make better decisions at the point of shipment so they can control what costs they actually want to allocate to their cost centers. So our parcel savings recommendations is parcels are going to keep going up at faster rates with the growth of the shipping space. There's only 3 suppliers you can use. I mean, you can use UPS, FedEx, and DHL. Most people who use DHL are using it for international. And then they can compare it to the Postal Service. But most people are using free carrier tools, and there are too many factors in calculating a shipping price to rely just on these free carrier tools. The free carrier tools will not show you that ground option on the same screen. You have to go into a different place in their system to see the ground option because they do not want you making a comparison of the ground cost versus the air cost to be able to make that determination that it's going to get there in the same time. Multi-carrier platforms will show you those calculations. So you need a way to be able to compare the rates side by side at the point of shipment to make the best determination. And so we recommend systems that have calendar views that show day of week and time of day that will show you your carrier options. And are they guaranteed or not guaranteed, and what are the price points in which they can deliver? And then that you can pick whatever carrier you want, whether it's Post Office, UPS, or FedEx, and then print the labels. And these systems would dial out on a package by package basis and pull in your discounted rate structures. On these same systems, they can also print postage. Some of these systems can also print postage stamps. So instead of needing postage meters at all your offices, you can print postage stamps on the same platform. Does everything need to be overnight? Could the Postal Service at a 57-cent stamp be just as effective, or are people only sending it overnight because that's the easiest way for them to do it? Cloud-based, so more people are going to be working remotely in the future, and they're going to need these types of tools to support their mailing and shipping needs because they're not going to be in offices with equipment and expertise to do that stuff. Multi-carrier tools are available to rate shop for the lowest cost to send. Some of these tools can generate postage stamps like we talked about, and there are enterprise versions that can manage all your users across the entire enterprise on a single platform, including having them connected to single sign-on. And these solutions create efficiency and savings. We recommend to all of our clients looking at these technology, the cost of this technology has come way, way down, and the simplicity of them is made them like very attractive to be able to take control of shipping costs. And the final thing is, if you have all your carriers in one system, if you ever do want to go out for an RFP against UPS or FedEx, you have the leverage that they know when you're using their tools, it's almost impossible to change. When you have them in a multi-carrier tool like this, you have leverage to be able to make changes because your users are already using technology that allows you to turn the switch at a moment's notice. Other rate change items. There are so many different international rate classes. There's no way we would have time to cover them all. We're going to focus on the basic ones. 1 2-ounce letters and postcards. You're basically seeing about an 8% increase across the board. A 10% hike. A 10-cent hike on most of the base letters, the 1-ounce rates. And this is basically staying, sort of normal with the rest of the increases. Library mail is going up 8 to 10%. Media mail, similar percentages in the 8 to 9.5% range. Special services, to just go over, there's a lot more special services in this. This is what we find is the most common. Certificate of mailing is going up 6%, registered 6%. The most common special service that we see is certified mail, which is there's 2 components of certified mail. There's the certified mail piece of it, and that's going up 7%. And then there's the return receipt to be able to get that piece back. And if you're doing the green card, that's going up 6.6%. That's the manual way. And if you're doing the electronic, it's going up 8%. Insurance, you can see, signature, confirmation. Annual permit fees, we actually got lucky. Small increase on annual permit fees at only an extra $10 a year. And then the business reply and the permit, other sort of account management fees are going up, at sort of similar percentages. So let's talk about certified with electronic return receipt. There's 2 ways to do certified. Most common way, and if you're doing small volumes of certified and it's happening infrequently, I recommend doing it the green card. I don't recommend automating this for everybody. You fill out the green card, it goes in with the mail piece, then the person signs it at the other end, and then this green card comes back to your office, and then someone staples it to a file, files it, or does something with it in order to prove that you physically have proof that that person signed for that item. It's usually designed by insurance companies who want to do policy cancellations or people that have like a firm legal need to notify you of something and prove that you got that notification. Certified mail is the main way people do that. Moving to electronic has a lot of benefits. The way you would do it is you would either get barcode labels from the Postal Service that would be sequential, and you would enter these into a system and then submit the electronic certified through a computer, some sort of web system to the Postal Service. And that can either be, you can either use these labels or you could print cover sheets that go into large envelopes like you see here. And the benefit of this is you save $1.25 by moving to the electronic version. But more important than the cost savings is you can have a repository of all of your certified mail in one place. So versus trying to get these green cards back, you can get a report that shows every certified you've gotten, and then you can say, was it delivered and do I have a signature copy? And you can have all that managed in one place. Some systems make you go out and request the different signatures one by one on an email, but there are other systems that basically can track all of your certifieds as a batch, and they can download all of these signature files into a resident system, so you could have access to all of these. And some people even index them and then allow them to attach to a client's system so they can manage those records directly in the client file. The other benefit of what some of these systems can do is they can generate a firm mailbook. And a firm mailbook is basically a manifest that you bring to the Postal Service and you rubber stamp, and the Postal Service rubber stamps it. And it's the ultimate cover yourself in a court of law that proves that you physically delivered that piece to the post office, and I have proof of it because it was rubber stamped at the Postal Service. So that's like the holy grail of what everybody wants who does lots of certifieds. And there are easy ways through these web-based tools we were talking about that those can be generated. Additional savings, business reply mail. This is one of the most overlooked areas of mail spends. Easy way to be able to reduce cost. Usually with business reply, it's done by different departments. They control their own permits. They set it up at one point and then they put it on autopilot. The way business reply mail rates are calculated is you pay an annual permit fee of $275, and that permit fee could be for one business reply account. And then what we've been able to do is for clients that have lots of business reply accounts, we can merge all of those onto one fee. And so they're controlled centrally, and then you have one funding source and one fee. So you pay this once versus paying it 50 times for your 50 locations. Then, do you want to pay an annual account maintenance fee? So business reply mail is designed So you send the piece out, you send your mailings out, and you put a business reply envelope in, and then basically you only pay for the pieces that get returned. So if you're getting a high volume of pieces returned, you probably want to pay the $800 fee because you're going to get a lower rate, which we'll talk about in a sec. If you're only getting a few pieces back, you probably don't want to pay that fee, because look at the fee per piece to get that piece back. If you don't pay the $800 fee, you pay 92 cents for every piece you get back. If you pay the fee, you get charges of 2 cents to 11 cents to get that piece back. And then you pay the postage rate, which depending on how you do it is typically the 1 ounce rate, but there's some incentives if you do QBRM. So basically, to get a piece back costs anywhere between 59 cents to $1.52 to get that piece of mail back. The significance of this is what a lot of people do is they set up their business reply account and they set it up as basic. They say, yeah, we'll figure that out later, or it's fine, we have no idea what we're going to get back. And they start getting lots of returns back. And then they're paying $1.52 to get every single piece back versus 71 cents if they just pay the $800 fee. And so we've had accounts doing 50, 100,000 returns a year set up in basic accounts. Someone who's doing 50,000 returns a year, they get 50,000 envelopes back, would spend $76,000 versus 37,000. By just paying the $800, their fee gets cut in half. And people don't pay attention to how much volume they're getting back in these accounts and to re-optimize their accounts, because it's the same thing on the other side. Someone who gets 20, business reply mail a year, is spending, or 100 a year, is spending $1,147 versus $427. There was no justification to pay the $800. So we recommend setting up a process to have visibility to your permits, pulling reports on a regular basis. This is what we're doing for our clients, to be able to make sure that we know what accounts are set up, how they're paying for these things, consolidating accounts where possible, but most importantly, making sure people are set up on the right level accounts for every permit. And there's additional value in linking all of your permits, not just business reply, to some central form of visibility so you can control the balances, the expenses, and to make sure that it's being optimized. How do you budget for this increase? So we came out with this calculator, and this calculator is designed to make this easy for you to figure out, like with this increase, how much is it going to impact my mail? So what you can do is in these fields in yellow, you say, okay, how much first class metered mail do I have? How much do I spend in flats, parcels, automation, and you plug in your spends on those, and it will calculate the new spends and then the difference. So you can figure out how big an impact is this rate increase going to be for you. If you're primarily letters, I would go on the conservative side and budget at least 8 to 9% to cover yourself, because you might look at the 7.5% increase in the first ounce, but the second ounce is going up 11 and then 13. That's an 8% overall. And so you want to make sure you're covering yourself. And at a minimum, you're going to be dealing with an 8% increase on your letter type mail, and higher if you have a higher percentage in flats. So what do you need to do? If you have a mail machine, make sure you download the new rates before July 10th, 2022, so in a couple weeks. And basically, if you have a newer mailing system, most newer mailing systems, except the smallest ones, are constantly connected. And so the rates are automatically going to go in because they're constantly connected. Older systems that are 3 to 5 years old or more, and most of which are in the smaller segment, aren't constantly connected. And then you have to you have to connect them, to the network in order to, or to an analog line to get them to download the rates. That you're going to have to request. So if you're not sure what you have, just see if it looks like a newer system, where you can go to the vendor's websites to see which one, if they have any requests on that. Newer systems should automatically. If it's older, just to be safe, you probably want to hit check the funds that are sitting in the postage account. So basically connect to the server of the meter vendor and just see if it asks you for a rate update. Like, it'll usually prompt you when you connect to say rate available, do you want to download it? And just say yes. If you have any questions though, hit the vendor's websites. They all have great websites, and they have customer service people that can help you. We created all the charts that you saw in this guide. We came up with a handy guide. Like I said, the post office only tells you like overall what the new rate is, but they don't show you what it was. So we created these guides to show you by percentages, like by class, so you can really pinpoint what the impact is to you. You can go to our website and download this for free, and feel free, and hopefully it's a helpful tool. So some closing remarks. Instead of calling this like a summary, I want to just give you things to think of as additional considerations, things that are happening in the mail industry that are going to impact you for the future. The dominant, and these are just some of the changes that you're going to have to know about. The dominant mail vendor is requiring that all meters move off analog phone lines by October of this year. And so most clients have already complied with this, but there's still a significant number of clients, usually in the financial and health services industries, who haven't converted over because they don't want postage meters on their network. And you're going to have to figure something out before October, or you're not going to be able to fill your devices anymore. So we want to make sure all clients know about this and are checking. If you're on an analog phone line today and you don't want to be on the network, the vendors can help you with mobile options, like basically a mobile subscription that connects to your postage meter that will allow you to fill. But it's important not to do that in October when they've shut you off, because there might be lead times in order to get those mobile connectors. 70% of all postage meters need to be replaced by 2024 to meet USPS mandates for postal security. What we were talking about the downloading of rates and meters that aren't constantly connected, the post office is saying every meter as of 2024 needs to be constantly connected for meter security and for compliance. And so it's going to mean that 70% of meters are going to have to be changed to newer devices. A larger percentage of staff is going to have no ability to generate postage where they're working. And if you think about that, that sounds like, well, that's crazy. But if you think about it, so many clients are working remotely, or they're in locations without metering equipment. And frankly, for those locations, it might be easier for them to send it overnight at $15 than a 57 cents postage stamp, because they have no technology to do it. And to drive to the post office and like account for postage, if they have a P card or not, might be just too difficult. There's new cloud-based mail and shipping options that can solve this. You can have one uniform access across your entire organization that anybody that you allow can be able to print postage wherever they are. And it can reduce or eliminate the majority of postage meters that you have throughout your field. So the fact that 70% of postage meters have to be replaced, the majority of those could be replaced with a cloud-based tool that would be a fraction of the cost. There's postage balances in meters, permits, and associated fundings accounts that are seldom centrally managed. There's a potential for loss and overfunding. So think about like companies that have all these random permits in places, that have postage meters that are on separate accounts. They have money that's been downloaded into postage meters that no one's paid any attention to how much money is physically in there, because mail volumes have significantly dropped since COVID. We find all the time tens of thousands of dollars sitting in these accounts that could be, if properly managed, could be optimized. Most organizations have limited visibility or expertise to mail spends across their locations. They might have someone in a central hub and in a central mail service that knows what they're doing, or that has some expertise, but they're not managing the spends across the entire organization. With this, overspending happens, and there's missed opportunities on things that we talked about today. We recommend having central managed visibility to drive these cost reductions, and that requires having what we call enterprise postage management. So it's control of the mail spend and shipping spends across the entire organization. There are savings available. We went through a lot of savings today. It can eliminate these price increases, but the only way to do it is to have visibility and then oversight to making sure they get implemented. So just a little bit about us. We run the only, frankly, but largest, we could say both, mail audit and recovery firm in the country. We manage the largest fleet of equipment and postage in the world. 127,000 pieces of mailing equipment and online postage solutions is under our management. Multiple billions of dollars of postage are going through our clients' accounts that we're managing for them. On average, our clients have saved about $2 million. On equipment, which is where we got our start, we averaged 56% savings. And that's been across the board. The lowest we've ever been is 35%. And we've had many clients in the 80s and 90% percentile. We have 220 years of mailing industry experience, and the only web tools that we offer to our clients that provide complete visibility across all of their locations and all of their postage spends in one place across all vendors. There's no one else who has a web-based tool that consolidates all that spend in one place. And we've recovered $27 million for our clients in lost postage, vendor overcharges, and fees. And every client has these types of overcharges that can be recovered. Our clients are the largest organizations in America, 8 of the top 15 banks, 3 of the top 10 insurance companies. Frankly, it doesn't make any difference what type of company it is. It just matters that someone has disparate mail spends across organizations. And with that, we are able to drive savings. The typical way it works is we do for any client, we'll do a no cost analysis of their mail spends, which will document where are you spending money today. We'll ask for a letter of authority or a limited agency agreement, just a one-page document that says we're working on your behalf to do this analysis. We ask for, if you have any reports from your mailing vendors of, that they provided, we ask for those. And if not, an accounts payable export, and then a copy of a sample of some bills, invoice copies that we'd request. And from there, we'd go to the vendor websites, we'd connect all of your accounts to the vendor web portals, and we'd be able to have complete visibility to your mail spends, and then be able to provide you a report showing what savings are available. And if you decide to move forward with us, we'll go implement the credit request, the lost postage, we'll help set up contract pricing for you, and we'll make sure that all of your accounts are optimized, and that we'll work directly with your end users and their locations to help drive savings. We present all savings to you for approval. We don't approve anything on ourselves. You have to approve it. We manage it all in a web dashboard and provide complete visibility to everything we're doing. And we provide ongoing support. So you can see, because everyone's going to have acquisitions, mergers, closures, new technologies coming out, postal changes that need to be managed. There's always, so we act as our clients' subject matter experts in this area, and we think we're the best in the country that can do this. We do these types of webinars because we think, regardless if you want to use our services or not, we think education is really important, because there's been sort of a gap in education in the mail industry over the years as more and more people have moved out of it. But it's still a required part of people's businesses. Mail is not going away anytime soon. In the production classes of mail, it's only going down 1 or 2% a year on average. And people are going to be mailing for the next 20, 30 years without question. And it's still going to be something that has to be managed inside an organization, especially as you start talking about the package and the shipping costs, because those are going up at significantly higher levels. So I want to thank you for coming to this session, and I want to open it up for any questions.
Thanks, Adam. Hello, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the presentation today. I want to remind you that there are 2 different ways to ask questions. You can either click the hand icon and then we'll unmute you to ask your question, or you can type your question in the chat box. Our socials are listed there if you want to check out. We post there on a more regular basis. And then Adam's email is there as well in case you need to contact him about any questions you have about the content today. So it looks like our first question, this is the second increase this year. Do you see this trend continuing of multiple rate increases a year?
Yes, the post office has already announced they're going to have at least 2 rate increases every year on a go-forward basis. Post office knows that the only way they're going to be able to basically sustain themselves is to keep raising rates at higher rates. And I would see these types of rate increases happening at this level on a go-forward basis as the new normal.
All right, and our next question, what do you see as the biggest opportunity to save money with the rate change?
With this rate change, people are going to have to start paying a lot more attention to what they're doing into flats, into 9x12s, 10x13s, anything that goes into those classes. When you're getting, a 20% increase on each additional ounce, the heavier the piece is, it creates a much bigger impact on your postage costs. So anything that you can do as far as looking at, even if it's staying in flats, but like trying to reduce weights, duplex printing, trying to get certain content that's included in mailings, maybe pushed to a website you can direct people to from a URL, or anything that you can do in any way to get it down to letter rates is going to be your biggest opportunity to reduce costs, especially with the massive increase that it caused in that category.
All right, our next question. Can you give us more information about why meters need to be replaced by 2024?
Sure. So the post office is basically saying that they want to be able to control the usage levels of meters. So if, let's say, someone has a postage meter and they barely use it, well, the only requirement is that every 90 days they connect to the data center and do an inspection, which creates an inspection on that meter. And then the post office has sort of no control over what that meter is doing. So the post office is saying we want every meter constantly connected so we can have visibility to the classes, we can perform more meter security. If we want to offer more services to clients on things like voiding, like if you do a print and you want to void it, they want those voids to be able to be done online in the future. So to make their operations easier, they don't want people bringing like misposted items into their post office for credits. And they just, for their future architecture and plans, the only way that they can manage that is to have these devices constantly connected.
All right. If there are no further questions, I would like to thank everybody for joining us today. Please fill out the survey that will appear at the conclusion of the webinar, and be sure to check out our social media pages to find helpful information from us on a more frequent basis. And we hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, everybody.